Right now I'm about to show you how to run the dart. The dart is a straight line, so make sure that your sewing is also very straight. If not, you won't get a very good result for the dart. So watch. Then let's sew the second one. Most time it's advisable to start your dart sewing from here, down here, and like from here. Just so that while you're sewing from here, you can easily adjust your sewing to give you a very sharp edge when you get to this point. So while you are sewing, ensure that you are directing your machine to whatever you want it to sew, however you want it to sew. So this is done. You see how it came out? Straight sewing, very smooth, no gallops. I'm sure you can see that. The next thing to do is to add my facing to the waistline. This is my facing. Now that I've done my dart here, my facing is now bigger than the waistline I intend to use. So the next thing I do is put it together. I trim the excess out. Now that that is done, the next thing to do is to trim the waistline as well. Before you trim this thing, let me quickly show you something. For every bandless skirt that you are making without lining, it is important that you deepen the waistline, the waist part here, because if you put your skirt the same length as high as this, it's going to eventually have folds on the belly part after sewing. So now to avoid the folds, you deepen the waistline this way, like a C-cut this way. What I have here as distance here now is 2 inches, which is fine. So if I cut these 2 inches out, after my sewing, it's going to give me 2.5, which is perfect for a bandless skirt, for any size or any shape. So now let's trim out this excess. I hope you realize that when I was drafting the pattern, I did not trim out the fabric itself. That is, I didn't trim out this shape, because I know that after putting my dart, it's going to give me this arc shape. Hence why I didn't talk about it while we were drafting a pattern. The next thing to do now is to add the lining to the fabric. So now that this is done, same method here is where you apply to the back of the skirt. If all you want to do is to face the band, to face the waistline of the skirt. But if you want to put lining, it's a different method entirely, which I'm still going to show you. So the next thing you do is you notch it carefully so you don't trim or cut your thread. Now that this is done, for some they top stitch here, some they don't. But let me show you how to top stitch if you prefer to top stitch the waistline of your skirt. But if you don't like to top stitch your skirt, that's fine, it doesn't change anything. All you just have to do is take it to your table, iron it very well, iron flat, in order that the lining won't be sticking out of the skirt when the client eventually gets her outfit. So let's just do the top stitch for those that prefer to top stitch the waistline this way. You top stitch on the lining, that's on the facing, not on the skirt itself, and make sure it's a straight line. So after this, we'll go to the table, we'll iron the dart, iron the waist. The next thing to do is to show you how to hem the tip of the skirt. But before we do that, let me show you the second method, which is to add the fabric and the lining together. So first thing I'll do here is to run my dart, just like I did for the first one. Control your fabric in your machine to wherever you want it to go. If not, it's just going to give you the wrong outcome. See, after sewing, this is what I have. Same thing applies to the other side of the back. Remember that I told you that it's better to run your dart from this top part here to the bottom than to run it from here to the top, because if you do it from here to this point, it's not going to give you this sharp edge like mine. Hope you get me. And you know that I've not even ironed and it's giving us this. So if you want to achieve your dart as smooth as this, I'll advise you start from the top here down to the bottom. And like I said, if you know you don't know how to do both arms for your sewing, just chalk here, that's the back side, so you can as well sew your dart like this. But I can sew with my left, so let's do this. Same way I did the other one. I'm on the fabric here to help me control my stitch and my straight seam. See? Very straight. Same here too. The next thing I do is to run the lining dart as well. This method of adding the lining to the fabric comes in various ways. Some prefer to add the lining and the fabric together, then they do just one dart. But I prefer to dart my fabric separate, dart my lining separate as well. So if you prefer to do yours the other way around, it's not like it's wrong. It's just how you prefer your own sewing. So that's that. Now that the dart has been done, let's go to the table to iron out the necessary parts of the skirts. Now let's iron our dart. So carefully iron your dart. Pick a side, whether you want to fold it to the right or to the left. Not left and right, like this. No, it's wrong. If you want to iron your dart to one side, keep to this side. If you want it to this side, keep to this side. Okay? So this is the front part of the skirt. Remember, we are doing like a 2-in-1 bandless skirt. There's one where you turn the fabric itself with lining, then the other one you face the waistline of the top with a facing. Can you see what the dart looks like after ironing? No folds, no excess, no point. It's not pointing. Shall you see? So now that that is done, concentrate on the waistline. The ironing should follow the shape of the waistline. If you have a curved waistline, you iron it that way. Don't just spoil the waistline by ironing it the wrong way. If not, it's going to come out looking flat, and we don't want that. Take your time to carefully iron your fabric. Whereby you're making fabric like that easily gets stains, make sure you get the fabric to place on it to avoid the stains as well. Can you see mine? So I'm going to steam now. Flat iron the waistline. Flat iron the waistline. Next thing to do now is to trim this facing, because obviously it's too long. So 3 inches here, 3 inches here as well. 3 inches here, 3 inches here. 3 inches, 3 inches. Then I join my left. Now I'll trim. Okay. So now I have my facing right here. Can you see it? So the next thing to do is to carefully bend the tip of the facing with your iron. This part of the skirt needs full concentration, so you get the band, so you get the facing measurements accurate. If not, one part will be big and the other side will be small. Now that I've done this, I'm going to flat iron the edge as well. Be careful with your ironing so it doesn't spoil what you're trying to achieve. So now that this is done, remember our lesson from third week. I told you about hemming tape, which comes in either black or white. But now that our fabric is white, obviously choice of color to use for the hemming tape is white. So the next thing to do is to bring out my hemming tape right here. Trim the measurement I need. You can make it single, you can as well double it. There. Now that I've done this, the next thing to do is to steam the hemming tape. Remember I told you to make sure you iron well till the hemming tape itself disappears. That way it will last long. Even if you wash, it won't remove. Neither will it open. You can see the advantage of hemming tape. This is the outcome. Then the next thing to do is the tip of the skirt. How do I hem this skirt when I don't want to use lining to turn it? Very simple. Same way you use your hemming tape for the facing, the same way you use your hemming tape for the tip of the skirt. Remember that our initial measurement for sewing allowance is 1 inch. So right here, you fold your measurement. If you want to do 2 inches, like I said, you can do 2 inches. If you want to do 3, you can do 3. If you want to do 4 inches, which I think is the highest to use, you can do 4 inches. If you want to go higher than 4 inches, well, it's your choice. You do whatever you think will make your outfit come out nice. So obviously, what I have here is more than 1 inch. I just need to fold it bigger in order for you to understand and to see what I'm trying to say. So before I put my hemming tape, I'd like to confirm if my skirt length is equal this way. Let me check if my skirt length is equal. Looking at it from here now, I have little excess here, which means I need to still tuck this little part in to make it equal. Okay, let's cross check again. Fold this way. Also, you have to make sure that the dot point here and the one at the back tallies. If not, there's been an error. So if you look at mine here, this and this tallies. So, which means I'm good to go. Right here, we've done a bandless skirt with facing for the top. And for the tip, we've also folded this with the use of our hemming tape. So after you've gotten your accurate measurement, the next thing to do is to carefully fold the tip just like you did for the facing as well. You have to take your time to iron it well. If not, you won't have the exact measurements, and which might ruin the beauty of the clothes. So after this, the next thing to do is to put your hemming tape. Make sure it's right on the tip of the facing. Yep. So this is done. Now skirts. Yep. So I'm sure you understand the process. You cut your skirt, you dart it, you cut facing for the skirt, you fold your allowance with hemming tape, you iron flat, you steam the hemming tape well till it disappears so it's firm on the fabric. So this is done. Let's do the second one, which is to line the cloth itself fully. What I've done here is to sew the darts. After sewing my darts, I'll iron my darts flat. Iron it in out. Same thing here, in and out. After this is done, I'll add the lining to the skirt. So let's go add the lining to the skirt. After that, we shape the skirt, we pull our zip. Right now, let's do the second method. Remember that I ironed the darts. Now I want to show you how to add the lining to the fabric. The first thing you do is you start sewing the tip of the skirt. This is the waistline till the tip of the skirt. This way. So after sewing the tip of the skirt, you come to the waistline of the skirt. If you look at this, after sewing the dart, the shape for the waistline has changed. That is, it's not straight anymore, which is wrong. After making your dart and you notice you have this, the next thing to do is to straighten the waistline of the skirt slightly, not so much, because if you don't trim out this excess, the back is going to eventually look funny after putting the zip. That's why it's important to look at your skirt after putting the dart. If it's not straight anymore, you just slightly trim off the excess and it gives you a straight line. So now that I've sewn the tip of the skirt, I want to sew the waistline of the skirt. That's done. For those who prefer to top stitch the waistline, you can go ahead and top stitch the waistline. Of course, I've shown you how to do that with the first method. So the next thing you do is you adjust the skirt this way. Remember that the lining is shorter than the fabric. So you adjust it from here. Can you see? And you sew. Trimming off the excess. Next thing to do is to sew the zip side. I just someone is thinking, if you sew the four corners, how are you going to bring it out? Just keep watching. So right here, okay, look at this now. I ironed to this side, but while I was sewing, my sewing pushed it to this side, to the other side, which is wrong. So I'm going to open up this now and put it back to the right side. These are common mistakes you experience while you are sewing, but as soon as you see it, just correct it immediately. Don't skip it. Don't say it doesn't matter. It matters a lot. So I'm going to stitch here, then jump a little part, like an inch. That part I jumped is where I intend to bring out the skirt from. That's to turn it out from. Then I continue my sewing. Don't forget to notch this angle, because it's not a straight line all through anymore. You need to notch it. When you bring out the skirt, it's easy and it gives you a good look. So what I've done here right now is what I'm going to do to the second half of the skirt as well. But let's bring out this first. You're going to have to struggle with it to carefully bring it out. It's going to take time eventually. By the end of the day, it's going to come out, because I wouldn't want you to make the allowance so big that after sewing, it's going to be visible to the client when they eventually check the finishing of the clothes. See? Just take your time to drag it out. And aside this, there's another way that you attach your lining to the skirt. Some, they prefer to sew the skirt separate, the lining separate, then later add the two together. That will be for, that lesson will be for another day, not today. So I'm done turning the skirts. You can see, it's turned out already, right from this little hole here. Same thing to this one, it's turned out already. Next thing to do now is to iron the skirts before joining it together. Looking at what I have here now, from the 1 inch extra seam allowance I showed you, this is the outcome. This is what it looks like. So this place you have this fold here. It's properly sewn on the side here too, and same here. Next thing I want to do to it is to iron. After ironing, we'll shape the skirts and we'll put the zip as well. Make sure you iron it properly. Don't just rush the ironing. Take your time to iron the edges out. Can you see how I'm doing it? I'm opening the middle of the sewing, and I will adjust to the edge. While you're adjusting it to the edge, control your ironing so the lining doesn't stick out of the fabric edge itself. Do not forget to put hemming gum to close up the little hole that I created to turn out the skirts with the hemming gum. Don't get confused, please. Remember that this is like a 2-in-1 tutorial. How to make a bandless straight skirt, either a long skirt, a short, or a midi skirt. The first one I showed you is to put facing on the waistline and also to hem the tip of the skirts. But this right here that I'm ironing is the second method, whereby I use the lining to turn out the skirt itself. You can see this, that the edge is not as smooth as this. Reason because I didn't remember to notch this part when I was turning out the skirt. So I need to turn it back now, notch here. If not, this edge won't come out this way. So now that I've done the notching, you can see that it's well laid now. You steam your fabric well. Okay, so our skirt is ready. A little explanation before I join the skirts. This is the back of the skirts. Okay? The back of the skirts is the first method. The front part of the skirts is the second method I talked about. For the back of the skirt, which is the first method, I turned the fabric itself with lining. Then I added my dart to it. I put my darts on the lining, put my darts on the fabric as well. Some would prefer to put the lining together and dart it as one, which is fine. Some would prefer to even join the fabric together, lining together, then turn all around, which is okay as well. But for today's lesson, I'm showing you these two methods. Then the second method I talked about is you cut your facing to face the waistline of the skirt, and you hem the tip of the skirt with hemming tape this way. So let's join the skirt together and put the zip. Right now I'm about to join the skirt together, put the zip and shape it. Right here I've drawn my measurements. That's the exact measurements I need for the skirt. I have it right here. And the next thing I want to do is to put my zip. But remember that when we were drafting our pattern, I explained that to push up the bum part of the skirts, that is to make it sit well, there's a particular way you draw the measurement here to give you that. And remember that after our 2 inches for our zip line, after trimming out that side I was referring to, we are left with like 1 inch, 1.5 thereabouts. So the same method applies to me fixing the zip. First, let me chop my zip length. From here to here, my zip length, 8 inches. And this is my slit as well. So the next thing I'll do is, remember that it's a slant line, not a straight line. It's slant. I'll chalk this way. Chalk this way. So mind you, when I'm fixing my zip as well, it comes this way. Then my sewing comes this way, this way. This space is for the slits. I can as well put the zip straight up without running it down. But let's run it down for proper understanding. When I get to the zip point, I'll stitch it very well. Continue sewing. Can you see what it looks like? So let me bring my skirt here, shape my measurements. You can put your zip before shaping the skirt. It depends on however you prefer to do your own sewing. You can shape before the zip. You can put the zip before shaping your skirt. So that's that. Let's do the second side. Mind you, make sure the middle of the front parts and the back of the skirt tallies, because you don't want a bent clothes after sewing. Like I said, for those that are not ambidextrous when it comes to sewing, you can easily chalk the back part of the skirt, then you turn over. But for me, I can sew with my both hands, so it makes it easier for me. Don't be surprised, because this is a 2-in-1 class. The middle part, like I said before, is to face the waistline. The back part is to turn the lining. So now that this is done, the next thing for me to do is to iron my zip line, fix the zip. After all our discussion about how to make a bandless screw skirt, this is the result. Remember I explained earlier that for the front parts, it's a 2-method skirt right here. The front one is how to make a bandless skirt with facing, that is no lining on it. And the second method is how to turn it with lining. So here right now we have the skirts made already. This is our dart. The facing is right here showing on the seam line, and the facing for the tip part of the skirt, which is done with hemming tape. Also for the back, which was lined, can you see? The back was lined, unlike the front that was not lined. So that is where you're not seeing the band showing here or the facing showing here. You can as well apply this method to whatever choice of length you want for your skirt. But mind you, basically, this lesson about a bandless skirt. Apply this to your long skirt, to your short skirt, to your midi skirt, to your half-length skirt. It's going to work, even to other styles of skirts. But so far you want to achieve a bandless skirt. I hope you were able to learn a thing or two from this lesson. Like, subscribe, and view my channel for more videos. Thank you.